Russ,
Meredith.
I have to tell you that preparing for this was somewhat therapeutic because I it was like calling a spade because I didn't realize so much of what I experienced throughout the day is attributed to ADHD. And then I would do something and have I would pay an ADHD tax for something I forgot. And I go, oh, adding that to my list to talk to Russ about.
Yeah, I remember we back and forth. This has been one of the most exciting thing to prepare for, just because we hit it off on our chat earlier, and I forgot that we were doing it, and then I remembered we were doing it, and I forgot we were doing it, and I'm like, this is basically an ADHD episode of like, oh, we're cobbling together some ideas. I think I know some stuff I want to talk about. I know some things I want to say.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. That actually leads me to my
And here
first
we are.
question. Here we are, because I wanted to ask you about masking, which is a term I'm borrowing from the autism community. But when I'm normally doing
Yeah.
these interviews, I mask pretty well. Also because I'm
Oh.
more in control. This is like the loosest episode I think I've ever done ever. And when I'm with other ADHD people, I notice my freak flag flies a lot more freely, and which is fun. Except for that, the part of me that wants to be in control is like, oh my God, who's driving the bus? So do you mask too? Is that just a me thing?
I know I used to big time, and I'm not a very. I really have a hard time with terms, and I think because I'm so oppositional, I'm like
Yeah.
mask. It's just it's this is like I do this a lot. I play with my hands when I talk to people sometimes. Um, I don't normally do that when I'm trying to be in like a normie environment. I I am very fidgety. Like I'm very alive inside my body, and
Mm.
so I actually noticed this recently, like being at Starbucks, and I'm typing, and I my legs are flying, and I'm like I'm not listening to music, but I'm like I'm like
Wait, there's
while
no
I'm
music,
focused on typing,
but you're headbanging.
nothing. I'm bobbing, but I'm just like because I'm in a groove,
Yeah.
um and I look around and there's all these people and nobody's doing anything. Nobody's moving. No, and they're in a Starbucks. They're drinking coffee and they are typing and I was like, what? They're zombies. They're not doing anything. I'm like, so I kept trying to do that. And it was so uncomfortable and so gross feeling. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's what all that, um, that's what I believe is the attempt to mask is like trying to contain the what do you mean like our soul, I don't know, like our
Our
our our,
spirit.
our who we are,
Yeah.
our spirit, our who we are inside, and that sucks. Like uh I don't know if they call it stimming, right, or
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
things that you
Stimming.
do to right whatever, but like I what do you call it, wave back and forth,
Rock. Yeah.
waddle,
I like waddle.
rock. I rock back and forth in lines. I used to never do that
Mm.
because I'd feel like I'm misbehaving or I look weird to people. And now I do it. And it feels so better. And I'm like, I don't give a shit what anybody. Yeah, maybe I have to pee. I don't know. Or I'm on drugs. Who knows? But it just feels it's how I wait. It's how I deal with boredom.
Yeah. It's interesting what you said about
Yeah.
looking at the people around you at Starbucks because during quarantine, my husband worked from home and I always work from home, but he's not usually there. And I remember being in another room, small house, right? So we're always within earshot and we
Mhm.
can always usually see each other. And I was like looking at him like, wow, it's been like 3 hours and he hasn't gotten up from his chair once. I began to narrate him like David Attenborough in those nature documentaries, like, look at this crazy specimen as he sits there focused on his work. And so I asked him later, because, after work, we created this like routine during quarantine, where instead of he comes home from work because he was already home, we would get on our bicycles and ride, which also is interesting in terms of like stimming and stuff, because I find it's much easier to have a post "how was your day" conversation while moving, like the sitting on the couch or sitting at the kitchen table. How was your day? Like I feel like my insides are gonna explode, but moving, like riding a bike, it feels so good. And then I feel like the conversation comes out really nicely. But when we were biking after that day had ended, I was like, question, I observed that you sat still for 4 hours straight. Just curious, is that normal for you? And he's like, yeah. How long do you go? And I'm like, I'm a solid 20-minuter.
5 seconds, and then I move, and then 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Do you find it like interesting when you're sitting down? We were talking about not being able to have like that post-work conversation. Do you find that when you're sitting down, then the mind just goes? But if you're engaged in a thing, somehow that allows us to focus better because we're doing a thing.
I got a
I find
kneeling
that very
chair for my desk, and it rocks. It doesn't rock wonderfully because it is a carpeted room, but I find not sitting in that like 90-degree angle. I'm kneeling. I don't know. It's also better for my my bones and stuff and my muscles. But
the ergonomical.
Yeah, that too. But it is much better for that. So it is interesting how I get in a flow state compared to someone who's more neurotypical. I find that there's a short window between 9 and noon, and it's sad to say, but I find that if there's something that's really overwhelming or I've been procrastinating a lot, it's better if I do it within that window, because not only do I have more juice for it, I don't know what the word is, but I also, when I do finish it, or I finish what I've, the portion of it that I've predetermined would be a complete status for myself, then I feel really good. It's like, then I feel like, I'm energized. I can do anything.
Oh yeah. You get pumped up because you did the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You did the thing that you said you're going to do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's for me. I have that window. That's right when I wake up, and I wake up at 5, and because I like being awake when nobody else is awake, and I'll just go on a quick walk. And then that's when I do the crappy stuff, because I can, I'll do a 45-minute work session on like schoolwork stuff or on just things that are just awful.
Yeah.
But that I have the reserves for. I have the executive function, the dopamine or the neurotransmittal blasters for it. That's when I'll do those things,
I love that. That makes it sound like weapons from the Transformers TV show.
Yeah, that's our weapon, our neuroblaster things. I get those terms are so hard for me to get on board with, because now we talk about dopamine as if it's like something you drink. Like, oh yeah, I need more dopamine. I need a glass of dopamine in order to do my thing. It's just a thing I have. I have ADHD and it's my thing. I need a cup of dopamine. But where I'm like, I can't see it. So I'm like, I can't even attach to that, because the science of it I get, but it's lost on me.
Yeah, it's like a little abstract. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting about the dopamine for you. Do you consider yourself an extrovert, someone who gets energy from being around other people?
Yeah.
I'm an introvert.
Yes, I do. You're an introvert?
Yes. So it's an interesting paradox, because I am outgoing. I am kind of a performing person. I am, if you put me in a classroom, I am a class clown, but it's also because I'm like, I'm bored, so I'm going to make everyone laugh. Oh, that's terrible. But when I'm around a lot of people, my battery just drains pretty quickly. So it's interesting to be like both ADHD, which, as you said, the dopamine is like maybe needing more dopamine, but my introverted self needs more, what's the other one? Is it acetylcholine? Is that a thing? Or is that like
serotonin, cortisol,
Yeah, I did an episode about this. It was about being a corporate introvert, and he explains that the brain chemistry is different, which I find very validating, because there are days where I'm like, this is really all made up in my head. Not for other people. I'm not, discrediting others, but for myself, I'm like, gosh, why don't I just like suck it up, But knowing that the brain chemistry is actually different, it is helpful, because then it becomes a fact. And like science, Meredith can enter the chat and we can work with that,
Activate science. Let's go.
Exactly. So tell me what's your ADHD origin story, since we're on like Transformers and superhero theme here. Did a spider bite you?
I find out about my
Yeah.
I found out about my superpower. When I was getting it was, I think we're coming up on 8 years now, and yeah, I was getting a divorce, or I was in the process, like we were going to couples therapy, and it's that story. The therapist is like, hey, have you ever considered ADHD? And I'm like, why don't you help me fix my fucking marriage, dude? Why are we talking about ADHD? And then, you go and you go home with it, and you Google it and take your tests and find out what kind of an animal you are. And, oh, I'm an animal that's the same as a cheetah, and a cheetah is an ADHD animal. I'll do another online test. What other kind of tests are there? And so then I go and I talk to a psychiatrist, I talk to therapists, I get diagnosed, and I go through all that. I don't know. What do you call it? Like there's like the relief of it, and then the sadness of it, of like, holy shit, I've my whole life, and all these things, all these failures and all these sucky things that have happened to me. And I could have maybe fixed that, or had a shot at fixing that. And that's, that's my origin story.
Oh, yeah, that's.
And I start crying. How did I get diagnosed depression? What's yours?
I am officially undiagnosed, so that may for some be an anticlimactic origin story. But as a child, women aren't usually diagnosed. I was born in '83, so especially during that time frame, that wasn't. Dyslexia was more of a thing. I thought I had dyslexia. And I went to Sylvan Learning Center, and I took a dyslexia test, because I swore up and down. And I still think I just see things differently. I don't think it's officially dyslexia, but I think I was, I don't have any comorbid depression, but I've always been a little anxious little person. And so if I'm reading something and I'm under pressure, maybe the teacher in school was like, Meredith, read this, then I would see what was on the page as one image, and then I would try to interpret that one image very quickly instead of going through. That made cooking really interesting. I, on several occasions, would switch the measurement for sugar and salt, which is an epic disaster, let me tell you.
Wow.
Yeah, my mom's like, how would you not have common sense to know that you wouldn't put a half a cup of salt? I'm like, Mom, I'm 15. I don't know.
The recipe said to do it.
I know. The recipe told me. So homework that should have taken 20 minutes took 2 hours. And simple chores that were, should have been very straightforward, clean your room, became hours-long projects, in which I decided to kick off by sharpening all of my hundreds of crayons and organizing them by the color wheel. I'm afraid to say that as an actual example. So my mom...
That sounds like how you start cleaning a bedroom. That actually sounds exactly how you do it.
It checks out.
Get it all organized.
Yeah.
That's totally tracks.
My mom would come in 2 hours later and she would go, listen, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm going to show you how to shove everything under your bed. And I did not know it at the time, but I have a little smidgen of OCD as well. That is diagnosed. Do you like how I make it sound like it's a cake recipe? Like just a pinch of OCD and not like it's a curmudgeon of problems. Yeah, a dash, just a little bit. And so that would really bother me that, it wasn't perfect and I didn't do it in the right order,
Oh,
which was also a big struggle. But my mom taught me a lot of tricks to kind of work around those energies and work with them instead of against them, which was very forward thinking of her, especially for the 90s when we didn't have internet until
yeah.
like, oh, I want to say like 99, 2000. It was a lot. We did not. And it was like dial up where one person at a time, it took the phone line, that one.
Mhm.
So it was very
Yeah.
forward thinking of her. So later I learned that these tricks were called executive function skills. And then as an adult, my ADHD has taken on some different presentations than when I was a kid. But that's kind of my OG story.
Oh, that's a fascinating story. And I think that's really cool that you had a support system back then. That uh that's really good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What were the negative aspects of I'm curious about the OCD stuff.
Mm.
The like what were the things that you did to if you can speak to that at all of managing it? Because I imagine the feeling is like this is wrong. What I'm looking at is wrong. I'm not well versed with OCD, but like that's how I picture it. How do you combat that, or how do you live with that?
Well, the sucky part, especially as a kid, where I didn't have as many executive function skills, was I saw everything at once, so therefore nothing at all. And yet internally, I felt there was a specific order by which I was supposed to do things, but what was that order even? And so, I mean, just you can tell that probably left me in a lot of inaction. And you'd be right.
Uh-huh.
I would just freeze and get so overwhelmed. And then I'd usually I had all this energy, nervous energy, so I'd pick up some random project like organizing my, it was always organizing, like that was always my,
Uh-huh.
I'd organize my closet or something like that as a kid. As an adult, it's a lot of procrastination, which doesn't sound like OCD, but it's like I'll make lists and I'm like, okay, I have to do it in this order. Otherwise, I've failed. So it's not like hand
Oh,
washing or the things that we traditionally think of OCD, but it's like if I don't do my list in this order, then I suck as a human. And then I'm hard on
yeah,
myself.
yeah.
Like I'm behind. Oh my gosh, I'm behind. But that's, yeah, and you can see how it pairs with the ADHD because I would also be
Mhm.
more in love with the idea of doing things than doing the things. And that's where the lists would come into play. And as a kid, I had just stacks and stacks of papers that were always titled like, and I always made it sound like some sort of James Bond thing. Mission, organize my room. Mission,
Operation.
yes, I did use that word. Operation pass algebra. And I would make a strategy for how I was going
Yeah.
to pass algebra. But the implementation part was really lacking because my baseline of being a human is and was so busy that I would wear myself out, you know? Like it's like
Yeah.
inside I'm running a marathon, outside I'm frozen because I don't know where to start.
Oh, yeah. And I had a lot of those too. Like the operation one is like operation, get this job, operation, do this thing. And I was a big time list dork.
Really?
Uh, oh my God. And for me, it was all about the fresh piece of paper and the writing implement. And if those things matched up right, then oh God, I just wanted to sit there and write. And it didn't even matter what I was writing. I would just be like, oh, this is my plan for my 10-year plan. And then I would never look at it. But the there's something about like a blank page of being like, there's a hopefulness to it. And there's
Yeah.
like oh, my dreams are on there. Let's put some dreams. Yeah. That makes me think of too, like there's certain types of paper, like a Papermate pen is perfect for the crossword puzzle book because that paper and how that works. And a fountain pen is good for this kind of a notebook. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I used to not be able to switch pens while note taking or just writing, even in my journal. Switching pens, it would just upset me. So that's kind of
It
like,
ruins it.
yeah, that's kind of where the OCD came into play. You know, it's interesting hearing your reaction to your ADHD diagnosis because I was listening, Russ, I promise, but I was also comparing it.
Wow. You know how I feel right now? I feel not listened to.
But I was also comparing it to my moment where my therapist was like, okay, so she was so sweet. So we have a little OCD, not a lot, a little, but here's the deal. We don't focus on labels here. And I was like, ooh, I like that. But I was also validated by the label, but I don't attach to it too much because, I'd rather spend my energy thinking of ways to utilize it, which is very helpful in the land of production. You kind of are in that world. Yeah. So making sure that all my equipment is with me, that I have, duplicates of different cables and cords, etc.
Yeah. I think I'm the same way in that the knowing that I have this thing that people have determined is called ADHD, it's helpful because for me that I know that I have, now I can look at these particular strategies and these particular things, and that I'm not a piece of shit loser. I actually, there were reasons why I couldn't do stuff. That to me is the good part of knowing and attaching to it, that term or whatever. But then I'm like, but we're all so unique and we're all so individual that I also am. I don't want to attach to it.
Yeah.
Because there's, I think that's being a bit dramatic about it. Like it's the idea of,
it's like the relative you don't really want to be related to. Like, okay, you're a cousin, but you're like a second cousin 4 times removed. Yeah.
Technically, we're not related, Troy. Yeah, I forgot kind of what I was saying, but it was just the idea of, I like knowing that I have ADHD, but I also am like, there's the me inside that's more than ADHD. That's that's me specific.
Yeah.
Nobody else in the world will maybe get or know, and that's supersedes the diagnosis stuff.
So how do you practice?
Same with depression.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what you were going to say?
I was just going to ask you, how do you practice interoception? What does that look like to you when you connect something you're doing outwardly or maybe something you're thinking and you have that moment where you're like, oh, I am doing this or I am thinking this, and you connect it with words. Do you know what I mean? It's like that mind-body connection, mindfulness maybe, but it has a little bit more to do with what your body is doing, which includes your mind. That was about as clear as mud.
I don't know what the word interception is. Can you please define? Use it in a sentence. Word origin, please.
So like introspection is going within your mind and like having a little chat with yourself. And interoception is going, oh, wow, when I talk with that person, I notice my jaw tightens.
Oh, you mean having like a supreme level of self-awareness?
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that since, again, preparing for this episode, my interoception about my ADHD presenting symptoms has been elevated, and it's kind of cool. And so I just assumed like you're more advanced than me because, you have more practice. I don't know.
I'm a professional.
Yeah, you're a professional.
ADHD diagnosed.
I mean, your podcast is called ADHD Big Brother, after all. So
I help people get their shit together. Yes.
Yeah. So I figured you might
with ADHD.
You might have like more tips than I have.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand what you're saying though, as far as like having a self-awareness about where you are in the moment of.
Yeah. So like, I'll give an example. So,
Yeah.
here we go. Let's take last night at 7:30 p.m. as an example.
Mm-hmm.
I had not yet prepared for our time together, and
Mm-hmm.
this is not the normal format for me for my show. I normally have a certain way that I do things, but I was excited to take on this challenge of a more vulnerable, more actual conversation back and forth type of thing. But it made me nervous and uncomfortable, and so I put it off.
Mm-hmm.
And in my head, if you had asked me, are you procrastinating because you're uncomfortable about this new thing? I would have been like, no, I'm just really busy. My week is super crazy. But the truth is that I was procrastinating because of the nature of, this, we'll call it this project. And I didn't have awareness
Okay.
of that until 7:30 last night when you emailed me and you were like, hey, Meredith, looking forward to talking to you tomorrow. And I was like, damn it, he beat me to it. And I felt so bad because I have this pressure on myself, like to be on top of things. And I'm like, oh, he emailed me first. I lost. Oh, and I was like, wait a minute, this is all ADHD stuff. And I had not, maybe if we weren't actually preparing for an ADHD episode, I would not have made that connection. Super long example, but that's kind of what I mean. So I'm just curious if you have those connections on the daily or if you have a process through which you make those connections.
I'm gonna so just a heads up is my brain was with you in the beginning and then it kind of trailed off. And then I was like, that's right. We didn't prepare too much. And then, and so it's going to be gone. For me, it's, if I'm procrastinating, then I ask myself, okay, what is the thing I want to do? It's very, for me, this stuff is all about like, you want to do a thing and you're not doing the thing.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't, for our brain, there is shit we do and there's shit we just can't do. And so for the stuff that we can't do, if you want to do it, you change how you set it up, right? You pull everything back to the very basics. You go, okay, well, what is the thing I want to do? What specifically am I going to work on? What is the easiest point of entry into that thing? And am I going to have to set a timer around it? Whatever it is to move me forward to get started, because in the moment, I don't want to do the thing because it hurts internally, it mentally, I'm struggling to get started, right? Or if there's some kind of a tension around it. I don't know about like for this interview, the way I view it is we're having this cool conversation about the shit that we go through in life. And, this is Meredith for real. The
For
real
real.
Meredith for real. We're going to peel your onion a little bit. And the same for me. It's like, well, let's let everybody know like some of the shit that we deal with. And I don't necessarily think we need to prepare for that outside of what do we want to talk about? What are the things we want to say in general? It's not like a typical interview, with I don't know, because I'm not a big interview person, but like with if you're going to interview David Letterman or something, you're like, oh, I need to research the shit out of it. And, oh, I need to look at his entire life and read all of his books and do all of his things and ask these questions.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. It's just different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it sounds like
We're just different.
We're just different. It sounds like if you do have something that you're procrastinating, what you described was a lot like a project manager. Okay, I love what you said about what's the easiest point of entry to that project. I feel like that is, we could end now. That's my takeaway. That's really good.
Okay, end meeting. How do we do it? Do I click leave?
Just the big X at the top right-hand side. Yeah.
Wait, I wanted to. This is the thing that I used to battle with a lot early on, is that I would feel so stupid because I'm a grown adult human being and I know how to do the dishes, but I can never seem to get started on doing the dishes. And then when you go, oh, if you put it in a container of time, I'm just going to set a timer for 10 minutes and my reward is that I get to quit. Then, okay, but I don't know how to get going. Okay, well, what is the easiest point of entry would be like, all you have to do is physically go over to the dishwasher and open it. And it feels so stupid and remedial initially when you think like that. But really, we're doing the same exact stuff that a normie's doing. We're just thinking it.
Yeah.
Like everybody's going over the dishwasher and opening the dishwasher. And that's what everybody's doing to do the dishes. We sometimes, if we need, it's like being paralyzed. If we're paralyzed and our brain won't let us get started, we have to, jiggle the handle or whatever it is, to turn the knob or whatever, like come up with these little things that move us forward.
Yeah. Prime the pump.
Prime the pump. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's your,
Yeah.
what's it like to be you? Like, I'm thinking if your audience is definitely fellow ADDers, but my audience, it might include some normies. And so for the sake of the normies, I thought it might be fun if we describe our chaotic inner workings. So tell me, what's your brain like, Russ? What's like, if you had to narrate, if you were David Attenborough and you had to narrate the goings on in your brain, what would it be?
Oh, let's go inside. And then we peel back the layers, zoom in. It sucks. This is where we'll talk about the dark cloud, maybe, is to be in the head of me, particularly me. So I won't attach to anybody else, but the people that are resonating with the podcast tend to also be comorbid depression people, because we all, historically, we just don't like ourselves. We are grown-ups who have not been able to do stuff, and there's a hopelessness to that. There's a sadness to that. And so for me, it's like an ebb and flow of depression, but it's an ebb and flow of my feelings of self-worth. And because certain things, like certain things that I know how to do and that I can do, I can't do. It's fucking it kills me. And I'm good now in terms of like I know all these things that work. That's why my mission is I'm going to help people get their shit together. That's it's a strong light inside of me. But the to be me is to be like if I don't get up and do my walk in the morning, I'm off for the day. Good luck. Here we go. If I take medicine to help quiet the distractions, I have to know that I'm also throwing in with anxiety at the end of the day, because that's what happens to me. It's like your cost benefit. I have to take some shit to get some productivity. It's not this. It doesn't feel like a gift to me. It doesn't feel like a superpower. It feels awful, except for when I'm having a good time. And except for when I'm lit up and I'm doing a thing that I believe in, like, so the ADHD Big Brother stuff that lights me up. Having a conversation with you, that lights me up. And I live in those things. And you know what? This is a total side note. And it's probably going to take us on a bird walk. But because of college, I've been having to read these research journals. It's a fucking slog. I hate it. But I was like, hey, if I'm going to do this stuff, let me see if there's stuff on ADHD in adults. And I lost my train of thought. There was a statement about a study about adults with ADHD, and that there is life is boring to us. And so that's why we are seeking stimulation from things, and why we go after things like impulsive things, sex things, all these like drugs, all these stimulating things, because our baseline is, this is life. This is so dumb. It's And you're like, everybody's just doing it. What are we doing? It's so like that. We're always, and we're such creative, alive people, but the world is so structured and normy and hard for us. So it's the slog for me, and this is, I think, going back to the initial question, is that my day is spent finding the ways to live in a normie world that don't destroy my soul, to be dramatic about it, and that make me so I'm able to feel the juiced up stuff that I want to, right? And that's that whole, like, I've talked about this a number of times, but like, structure feels like a prison, and it just feels like a trap. And yet, if people with ADHD need it, so we have to find ways to put structure in our lives. And by doing that, we get more structure. We get more unstructured time. It's a weird phenomenon, right? That structure more and you'll get more of your whim running, like chase your whim time, which is what I think we all want more of. I don't even remember what you initially asked me, just so you know.
I was asking what your internal world is like.
Oh, did I share it?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Yeah, I think you nailed it. It's interesting because it's interesting about your research paper that you read. I'm happy that you took that little bird trail, as you called it, because I have a completely different interpretation of the world. I crave the peace and quiet. I crave the time in nature. I crave solitude. Like, the world, my baseline is also busy. So that part's the same, but because, I don't know, it's just different. I feel a higher inclination to be tipped into overwhelm than tipped into boredom. And so I have to make room for boredom. When I travel and we go to a cool place, I have to ask myself, is there room for boredom? Because I will overbook us and we'll do everything and see everything. But that's also our style of travel, is to let the magic happen in those quiet moments where we run into a guy selling empanadas on the street and his dog has 3 legs. Like, that for us is very satisfying. But making room for boredom is like a practice for me. It's almost like a meditation practice. It's because I feel overstimulated all the time, not under. So yeah, that's really interesting.
That's interesting. That is so introverty.
It is. I mean, it's definitely a real thing. And I'm very grateful that maybe it's, I'm just grateful for the way things kind of turned out, because I think that if I had perhaps been aware of these particular designations at a younger age, I may have felt very badly about them, because I remember figuring out I was an introvert. I was like 28, and I was with a bunch of fucking extroverts, and I was like, what is wrong with you people? And they were like, what is wrong with you? And then I realized,
Lance, settle down.
Oh my God. Like, they wanted to be together all the time. I'm like, y'all, working with you once a week. And I only saw them like once or twice a week. We were all independent contractors, but I'm like, that's enough. I don't really need to go and do an escape room with you. Plus, that's a terrible idea.
Wait a minute. Escape rooms are the coolest.
It's like a class.
This is over again.
It's like a class project.
Do you find, I need to ask you this about you.
Yeah.
Do you find, okay, so after today, you're recording podcasts today, right? Are you going to be wiped out, or are you going to be juiced up?
Wiped out.
Are you going to be like, leave me alone, don't talk to me?
Yep.
I need quiet.
I'm not even letting you finish the question. Yeah. My husband jokes because I record typically 5 episodes back to back. I can do 6, but my brain's pretty mushy for that 6th interview. But most of my interviews, my episodes are 30 to 40 minutes, and that's true recording time. Whereas some podcasters record 90 and trim down to 30 or 40. Mine's a true 30, 40. Kind of what we record is what the episode is. So that is an important distinction for those other podcasters out there that might be listening going, you do what? But at the end of the day, my husband knows I am on the couch. We are ordering food or eating leftovers, or like I'm not doing anything. I don't feel bad about it. And he's so great about it. He comes home and he opens the door and he goes, there she is. Meaning there I am on the couch, you know, but he wants me to take care of myself. And I'm really grateful to have a partner like that,
awesome.
that he's not like, really, you got home at 3:30 and it's 5:30 and you've just been sitting on the couch. Like, he knows that's what I need, because he has seen me where I'm just overextended, overcommitted, and it does not make for a pleasant household.
Oh, no, it sounds like it wouldn't.
No, it doesn't. So I wanted to hear about the inverted mountain triangle, because when we were talking about procrastination earlier, you know, I have some different hacks, which I can share later, about how not to procrastinate on smaller things, but I still have trouble with larger things, and I have trouble with things that are in like certain categories, like technology. So I like, for example, I bought a website revamp in December, and we're recording this in June. Go ahead and ask me, Meredith, have you done the website revamp?
Okay, Meredith,
Yes.
just a quick question. Have you done the website revamp?
That's a negative. I have not. And
Wow.
I bought it in December. I bought a new laptop in November. I didn't even open the box until March. I bought a very expensive...
That's...
Yeah. I also bought a very expensive XLR cable and left it in the box for months because it overwhelmed me. I should have opened it and tested it to make sure it was the right thing. By the time I did open it and test it, it's not the right thing. I can't even use it at all. And then I couldn't return it because the window of return was over. So I have hidden it in my house so I don't have to look at it and feel bad about myself. So yeah.
That's hilarious. Out of sight, out of mind. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Just get it away, and then it doesn't exist anymore on the planet, in the universe. It's
Yeah.
gone.
So tell me about this mountain triangle upside down world, because I needed to change my life.
You did, oh, you want a game changer? Here's your game changer. Okay. Comes from my struggle against the normie views of things, and why it's never been working for me. And the idea that, you know, the world that we live in, right, is that goals are these things that you go after, and they're on the top of a mountain, and you work hard, you persevere, blood, sweat, and tears, and it's going to hurt, but that means you earned it, and you fall down, get back up. Come on. And it's hard work. And it's really dramatic. And then you get up on the top of the mountain, and like people with ADHD or me, I'm putting the mountain over here. I don't even know how this looks on YouTube, but like there's the mountain that way.
Stage left.
Where do I put the mountain? Is it up here? A person with ADHD will stand in front of that mountain and be like, holy shit. There is so much to know and do and learn. I'm going to need a jacket for that. When I get that high, I'm going to need ropes, harnesses. Let me make a list. Let me do this. I'm going to have to read a book on how to do that kind of climbing. There's so much that goes into it, and it becomes so overwhelming, and it becomes impossible. And this whole just do it world that we live in is fucking stupid. It doesn't make any sense for our type of brain. And I'm like, this is just a dumb metaphor. Why does it have to be that? And so the thing that works for me is to start my journey on the top of the mountain. And I just imagine the goal is at the bottom of the mountain, somewhere below the cloud line. I can't really see how to get there. I just know it's down there. And then all I have to do to get going is just a nudge, just like a book, someone to push me on the back of the shoulder, and now I roll down the hill toward my goal. It's just such an easier concept. I don't have to know anything. I don't have to figure anything out. I just start rolling, smash into some trees on the way or whatever. But it's like just nudging, and and then if you stop, you stand up and you find a way to nudge yourself. And those are the ADHD hacks, right? The easiest point of entry, timers, all those little skills that, that you teach and that you learn and are the nudges to move you forward. And God, it makes goals so much easier. You can half-ass your way to a goal. That's a thing you can do. Be like, no, you have to give 110% every fucking time. You have to work it. You have to be better than. It's so freaking. You feel like such a loser when you are like, oh, you mean I have to do that? I guess because I can't. I'm lazy, or I'm a failure. I just like set a timer for 10 minutes and half-ass your way forward for like 10 minutes, and then reward yourself by quitting. Oh my God. Your reward is a quit. Like, yeah, quit. And then set another timer later for 10 more minutes.
I love that.
Sorry, that gets me this gets me heated up a little bit.
Well, I think if I were to take a stab at why you get so heated up, is I think it's related to what you shared with me off mic, which was like being cool with yourself, versus like that that constant cycle of beating yourself up, which is very unhelpful.
Yes, that's I think the world that we live in right now too is very self-care, self-love, get on a paddleboard and do Tai Chi and take care of your spirit. And it's like, you got to take care of yourself and love yourself and tell yourself in the mirror that you love yourself.
Okay, that's how you know that you are in California. Because if you were in the American South, self-love would be like, go get you that fried chicken and get your nails done and go to the spa. Like, you're like listing all these healthy outdoor hippie things. That is not our world over here. Okay.
Hilarious. Yes. Okay. So these worlds, right? Of like, I love myself. I love myself. It's not realistic for a person. And I'll just say it's not realistic for me. And if it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I can't go from, I hate myself, I'm a hopeless piece of shit, I'm a loser. I can't go from that to, oh my God, I love myself. Oh my God, I'm the greatest. And yes, me. Yes, that's it's ideal. I would love that. I would love to feel that way. But you can't go up to the employee that you hate and be like, will you marry me? It's just, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. So this is what I don't know, preach from the mountaintop, is to be cool with yourself. That's something that somebody like me can do. I can go, I'm cool with myself. This is an aspect of my life that's not going well. Okay. Can I accept some aspect of it and be cool with the fact that I'm in this place? That I can do. It's like a shitty roommate, but he pays the rent, right? I'm cool with him. He can stay, but it's not the best. I don't love him.
I like that.
It's that kind of a concept.
I like that. My mom used to reframe with me, although we didn't know that was what it was called. She would say, let's try this as an experiment. And that would help me from the, indecision zone to get out of it and to try something without fear of failure or fear of it's the wrong decision. I had just a clinical level of FOMO. If that's a thing, then I definitely had it, because if I made one decision, I would not be present. Excuse me, I'd not be present with that decision. I'd be thinking about this decision I did not make and wondering if that in fact was a better decision. And this was even for small things like choosing a candy bar at the store. And so she would say, let's conduct an experiment. And the little science nerd in me was like, ooh, there's no failure in experiments. It's just data. And so for me, being cool with myself looks a lot like observing myself as an anthropologist, as someone collecting data. And so when I do something that, like, for example, I just got my dive certification over this weekend. Yeah, super excited about it. Do you know when I bought the online portion of that? August of 2022. It is June of 2023. So I just couldn't sit still to do the online portion of it. So I kept procrastinating it. And then I had a really cool opportunity to dive with someone who was coming in town, who is like a big shark person, and she was going to take me to go see these sharks. And I was able to get into a class just in time, but I failed the class. I didn't fail. I just didn't pass. But I was like, you know what? If I hadn't procrastinated on that thing that I bought last August, then I would have already not only had my certification, I would have been confident and practiced, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, that's that fork in the road for me. That's an example of a fork in the road for me where I go, okay, all right, we can feel bad about this and kick myself and call myself a loser. And why am I always the almost girl? Like, I almost did it, you know? Or I can observe this as empirical data and push up my invisible nerd glasses and get out my invisible nerd pen and take notes for future me. Or, you know, for present me. I try to not be so enthralled with the future. I try to, you know, be in the moment. And that's something that I'm working on currently. But my version of cool roommate is being an anthropologist.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you think that you're a visual type of person? Like these metaphors just match up, right? Like if I don't know that it's role playing necessarily, but it's like, it's this idea of how you see yourself in the anthropology and that creates an ability in you to do a thing.
Oh, totally.
I love that. I love that stuff.
Up until really recently, I never even thought in words. No words, no English, no other language, nothing. It was only pictures. So when people would say, how does that make you feel? Like, I would literally just feel feelings. There was no words. And my mind's an interesting place. It's like I am in the center of a multi-lane highway at dusk, and there are cars zooming towards me with their lights on, and I'm in the middle. They're going around me. They're going across. They're just everywhere, and it's a multi-stacked highway too. So there's more. It's not just one layer. It's multi-layer, and those are my thoughts and ideas and prompts and motivation. It's everything in my brain, and it doesn't line up. And it's like that fight or flight of being in the middle of a multi-lane highway most of the time. Yeah. Now, I will tell you, as far as things I can't live without, I recently discovered GABA, which is just a really inexpensive vitamin, GABA, that you can get at your local vitamin shop. And apparently, writing that one down. Apparently, it's very useful for people with autism or who have like stimulus overload kind of sensory stuff. But it is totally a game changer. It doesn't take away the cars. It just makes them line up in a row. And now I'm kind of like, you know, the traffic officer who's going, okay, you can go. Okay, you can go. Pull over to the side. I'll talk to you in a minute. And it's just like a much more orderly way of doing things. It's just incredible.
Oh, that sounds awesome. You're like, and that's why I GABA in 500 milligram pills.
Yes. Yeah. No scary side effects.
That's for me. That's sort of what medicine does for me. Which I'm interested in that because I don't like medicine.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I know, like when I was depressed, I got to a point where I was like too depressed for too long. It's like, give me the pill for it. Because this isn't how I want to live. For me, it was that experience of there's so many things happening. I can relate to your highway. For me, it's all their ideas. Their ideas of of urgencies, things that are important, and they're all hitting me all the time, nonstop. They're go, 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 go. And my experience with medicine was that, they all became whispers, and which totally relates to your like, oh, I'll deal with you and I'll deal with you. It was, they didn't go away. It was all still there, but it was manageable, right? Does that,
Yeah,
that's
that's
what
exactly
that's really cool.
It is really cool.
I'll check
And
it
I'm
out.
just so grateful that my friend Emily Murphy, she's like a hormone specialist. And I was struggling and with overwhelm. And I don't know if they're intrusive thoughts. I don't really understand intrusive thoughts, but I understand rumination. And it was like you know what rumination is? Like you think of something you said that was stupid in the 6th grade, and you're like, trying to pay your bills as a 40-year-old, and you're like, remember that time in 6th grade? It's like my brain is this really unhelpful gym teacher from Minnesota. She's like, oh, hey, I see you're paying bills there, but remember that really dumb thing you said to Billy in the 6th grade? That was really mean of you.
Yes. Mine's not a gym teacher though.
She has
That's
a fanny
freaking
pack
hilarious.
and like a headband, and I've got this whole, again, with the visual in my head, but yeah, and so it was getting really bad, and I mentioned it to her, and she was the one that suggested GABA, which I'm grateful for. But I'm curious to hear what your like can't do withouts are. Do you have any other, gizmos or gadgets or like hacks that if you just can't like if you had to get on an airplane with 4 things and you're like, you know what, this has to be one of the things?
You know what? I don't, well, my bullet journal. I
thought that was like the Book
a
of
bullet
Mormon or
journal.
something. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to take an interesting turn.
Have you considered what it means? I just want to invite you in real quick. Have you heard about the word of David? And I don't know.
I can tell you, no Mormon background.
Like this
whatsoever.
went in a totally different direction. Where's your soul at right now? Let's talk about that.
Oh my gosh.
The bullet journal is a thing I can't do without.
Okay.
I have to have it. It's like the Lord of the Rings of like one notebook to rule them all. Like you put everything in one place. That to me is something that just ADHD people in general, you have to externalize your planning. I don't know anybody that has ever managed an ADHD life that is like, I just wing it. And it works out. I don't know anybody like that, but that's one. And then I'm a big timer guy. I mostly spend my days with the structure of a timer, and people, it's the Pomodoro technique, but it's a cobbled together my own version of it, right? I don't go by 20 10 20 or whatever it is. I go, if I have the juice for a thing, I'll work for 45 minutes. And then when the timer goes off, I'll take a 15-minute break, 20-minute break, whatever I decide it's going to be, and it'll be something completely different. And then I'll come back. And that helps me to avoid burnout and the day going to hell, and it allows me to get a lot more done in a shorter amount of time. And I'm a huge proponent of the reward being quitting. I don't go after necessarily how much I can get done in the time. I go after, I just said I was going to do it for this amount of time, and when it's done, I'm going to quit. Thank God I get to quit. That's it. What about you?
Yeah, those are
What
good.
are yours?
Mine, top of the list every day without fail, are my lists. So I'm still a big list person, but I've been able to find a version of list making that isn't like Operation Have a Good Day, and then I don't have a good day. So I make a list of everything. It's a brain dump of everything that I want to do for that week. Because if I don't, it's in my brain anyway. It's not like I'm creating another thing to do. It's in there, so it has to get out. Like you said, I love that you said that. And then I have a general structure of what Monday through Thursday look like. Friday is either a free day or an oopsie day. So I try to just have a 4-day work week, but sometimes the surf is up. It's not always up here like it is in California. So if the surf is up, it's like a reason to cancel plans and we go do the thing, we go surf.
Oh.
And then of course, it extends the week into, Friday or Saturday for working. But the thing that I do different about my list that has made the biggest difference for me is I write down what I'm doing, like my time, as though I had to submit a timesheet. So because I don't have a robust inner clock. So there's that. So I'll write down like, okay, 10 a.m. and then a dash, and then I am culling through an episode for the podcast, let's say. So, editing episode. And then it prevents me from getting up and wandering away and going into another room, which apparently is a time warp and causes me to instantly forget my name and what I'm doing and where I live. So I go back to the list and go, oh, that's right. I'm supposed to be working on finishing this episode, and then I'll come back to it. And then I actually have an Excel spreadsheet that I put all that data into as well, because I like to see where I am. Some would call it hyper-focusing, but I call it like ultra loyalty. I just get ultra committed to processes, even if they are inefficient. And there's a pattern there. I'll become ultra loyal to people or ideas, even if those people or ideas aren't working, because I always see myself as the problem. If I just work harder, if I just put my head down, the problem is me. Like, I've had the same surfboard for since 2011, and I love it, and I love the man who shaped it. He's amazing, but I need a different surfboard. But I'm committed to that surfboard because only losers change their equipment. Who told me that? I don't even know where that came from. I need another surfboard, but I'm like loyal.
It's your idiot gym teacher brain. It's that idiot gym teacher. What's her name?
She doesn't have a name, but she is got really thick white socks. So there's that.
She knows nothing about surfboards, by the way.
She does it. And so it's like loyalty to inanimate objects. So the point is, with the list, getting back to writing down my time, is it helps create like a third party auditor that is still me, but I can look at it with an anthropological view and go, oh wow, it looks like I spend the most time in this area of my work. I wonder how I can shorten that. Now, because I don't have a robust inner clock, shortening it for the sake of shortening it don't work. So I have to schedule something that is non-work related, very close to whatever that end time might more ideally be. So let's say, I want to be done Thursday at 4 p.m. So I will schedule a rock climbing adventure at the little rock climbing gym with a friend at 4:30. So that's a hard stop. And what happens is my competitive nature will go faster, be more focused, in more flow, and I will trip over a more efficient way to do things along the way. So that's like the longest answer ever for just one tip, but that's my go-to.
That's brilliant. And I'm going to steal that. I'm going to try that on myself. The idea of putting a to-do or a thing that's like an appointment, right? Technically, the gym rock. And it's in a time where you have a hard out at 4. So then you're like, how can I get as much done as possible? And then the thing that you said that I loved is that you're going to trip over a methodology that to me is brilliant. Like some of the clients that I talk to, and like, it's when the insights come out of you is when they are the best. It's when they sink in. Like, you can tell. I was telling this guy in a million different ways the same thing. I don't remember what it was, but one day we're having an appointment and he says it. I think I need to do this. And he's like, well, you've been telling me that for this whole time. I'm like, but that doesn't matter. It's the when it finally comes out of you, this insight that you tripped over, right? This thing, it becomes alive and it becomes sunk in, and you're like, oh, I get it. And it's like those what do you like, the cliches of life, you know, the motivational posters. You're like, oh yeah, I get it. We get everything, but it's when when it comes out of us as though it's your idea and like, oh, that's right. This is how to do it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think that's where an ADHD person who also has curiosity can be a power, can be a superpower, because if you are exploratory in your life and you're willing to try different things, you can stumble upon solutions that really work for you. A long time ago, I was really curious about essential oils, which I don't know why that's funny, but it's funny. And so, but I was like approaching it in the dorkiest way possible. I was reading about terpenes, the thing in essential oils that make them work. Like, why do I feel energized when I smell lemons? And I think that's actually where it started, was with lemons. Lemons, the gateway drug. But then I discovered limonene is the terpene in lemons, actual, like the fruit, that makes you feel like motivated and want to go forward. And so then that began this whole...
What?
Yeah, you didn't know that? It's so cool.
No.
It's so cool. So then
I just know that I really like the smell of eucalyptus and lavender in the the humidifier thingy.
Yeah.
It's a little soothing. It's really soothing.
So I started to read more and learned that pinene is the terpene that can really help with focus. And I thought, okay, well, what essential oils have pinene? There's a lot of them, but I discovered rosemary essential oil works well for me. So I bought like a little roller ball thing that already had a blend in it that was for focus, but I kind of dumped some of it out and I added a lot more rosemary to it. And I bring it with me on recording day. I have it with me, it's next to my desk.
What do you snort it?
I roll it on my temples.
Like, hold on, man.
Yeah, I wish I could just stick it up my nose and like let it hang there and it would work. That would be great.
You're like, no, you're doing it wrong. You're out.
Yeah. And then so that's another tool in my toolbox. But then I thought, wow, well, let me read more about these terpenes. And as I was Googling terpenes, all this stuff about marijuana came up. So then I started learning about marijuana and how marijuana has terpenes. And I thought, wait a minute, and you ingest that? Oh, that's interesting. So then I, started using marijuana and I blended it with CBD so that like on recording day, I can focus and do 5 interviews in a row. I don't need that anymore. That's the cool thing about plant medicine is there's a level of integration as opposed to traditional pharmaceuticals that taper off and become less effective over time. Plant medicine, you like become the thing. It's kind of cool. But that was another thing that really helped me. And it was because of ADHD plus curiosity equals discovery. And I'm just really grateful for that.
Oh, man. So note to self, snort lemons.
Yep.
And smoke pot. And okay, I'm in. This actually sounds like it's going to be fun, man. No, that's awesome.
I have one more.
I'm learning a lot here. Like the pinenes. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, the pinenes are great. There's a YouTube video called Super Deep Gray Noise. Not because I would always like if I was working at home and something else was noisy, I would put on headphones and do white noise, and it's like a river, a bubbling brook, and that was so distracting to me because I'm like, oh, I want to be where the brook is. I wonder where that is. I wonder where they recorded that. I bet I could find it out. And I would just totally go on a rabbit trail that had nothing to do with the work that I set out to do, but something called gray noise, which is literally like that's it. That's the whole and it's 15 hours of gray noise, and it is my go-to.
Like, here's my impersonation of gray noise.
Yeah. So those are my go-tos.
That's cool. I literally just had Sky Watterson was on the podcast, and she was talking about white noise, and I was scared of it. I'm like, I don't know if it's a sensory thing or what, but the idea of white noise freaks me out, and so I experimented with it and I tried it, and I totally resonate with the idea that it's like a river. It's like I want that. I left it on for a while, and for me it was relaxing, and it I think it filtered out some of the clutter, but it was so freaking jarring when I turned it off. The silence was so loud that it was that I didn't like. So it was like the white noise was okay, but the turning off of the white noise was unsettling to me. I have it in my notes now to try gray noise.
Yeah.
How is it again? I'm sorry, what was it again? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, just Google
Noted.
that.
That sounds like it would work. Could you just record that for me?
Sure.
An hour and a half?
No problem.
Thanks, Meredith. You're the best.
My pleasure.
Looking at these things that this is what I do. I put Post-its of things that I was like, oh, do I want to make sure I say that? And I say that, and I say that. And guess what? I said none of them.
Well, I don't want to end
awesome.
our discussion before you say the things that you want to say. So what's
literally
tell me about your sticky notes.
Something I'm shitty at.
Okay. Oh, you
okay,
got
here,
all
I'll
of
tell you what my sticky notes are. This one you're good. This is interesting to me. Because this stuff that I suck at. We were going to talk about stuff that we suck at, and I suck at financial stuff. I have on my notes. And this just goes into just me talking about something that I suck at. So I don't know how that even applies to where we're at in the conversation right now. But these things where people get you, where they go, you just sign up for a thing, you spend $400 or something for it.
Yeah.
And they're like, don't even worry about it. We bill every 2 years. And you just suddenly see a bill for $400 one day. And you're like, what the fuck did I do? And you don't even remember doing the thing. Oh my God. What's the workaround for that?
Yeah, I'm not good at that either. I have a health insurance bill that is insurance that I canceled that was like $200, and they're still charging me $25 a month. And every time I do our bills, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to call and cancel. And I think we're at like 8 months now where I've not called and canceled because I just keep forgetting. So we need some of your listeners and some of my listeners to chime in and give us tips for that, because that is tricky, because there's also like a window that you have to call when they're open. That can be really tough.
Yes, I have. Oh my God. I have a box that I was supposed to return to a cable company probably 3 years ago, and I never did. And I think I might be in collections for it. I think people might be trying to hunt me down for it. I've tried to return it twice, and both times they weren't open.
Yeah.
And I'm like, forget it. We're done here. We are done. I will take this box with me everywhere in life. And it'll just be like, oh, someday I'll return it.
I have a question. How do you handle social situations? Like when your ADHD symptoms show up when you're at a party, or when you're on a date, or you're talking just to a person or your boss, how do you handle when your ADHD symptoms kind of become an unwelcome member of that conversation?
That's actually a really good question. That's hard, because I don't think that stuff, it's after the fact. So I don't think I'm ever aware of something until it's already done. The damage is done. And that's one of the things. I'm a huge sufferer of. Can become emotionally dysregulated big time. And so I can get really butthurt really quick. I can, I even read like arguments that I've had with my ex-wife back when we were married. And I would get so like passionate about things. She'd be like, "Why are you so angry?" I'm like, "I'm not. I'm just passionate about what I'm saying." She's like, "Well, look at your face. What do you mean?" And I'm like, "There's no ill will going on with me, but I have a point to make." That I don't notice until I self-reflect and go, "What a fucking idiot." and then I have to deal with the whole be cool with yourself stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I've done that, I'd say a bajillion times. You go, oh, guess what? I overshared. I told people all about that aspect of my life that nobody needs to know. And now I feel shame or guilt or whatever it is. I got to remember to be quiet. I got to remember to stop talking. And it's like that's just an afterthought. And then you'll go out and I'll say that they'll do the same thing. So how do I handle an ADHD flare up? When I could feel it in my elbows. I'm having an ADHD flare up. It would be just to be cool with yourself, like just exist in the world and be you, and afterwards just like, oh, so what? They know a little bit more about me now. Big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you handle your flare ups? Do you have a cream?
I wish I did. I really wish I did. I struggle with spacing off when people are talking. It's maybe something they say will trigger another thought, or maybe I think to myself, wow, they're repeating themselves a lot. And then my mind will go, oh, do you need entertainment? Let us offer you the selection of 5 other things you could be thinking about while your friend is telling you about their problem. And so my hack for that actually came from a time that I got a little bit too high on weed. I was at the beach and I was floating on a little float. It was so beautiful. And I just was really, really present. I was looking around and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this water. Look, all my friends are at the beach with me. This is so beautiful. And and I cried. And I realized in that moment, it was extra beautiful because I was really present. It felt like a dream state, but I was in the dream. And that sounds so dumb, but I just remember taking in every little aspect of the texture of the water. It was like I was seeing through my eyes. I wasn't disassociated at all. I was just really, really there. And then after that, I thought, I'm going to see if I can access that while completely sober. And certainly not to that level, but I can access that. And so when I'm spacing off when someone's talking to me, I pretend like I'm in a dream, and I pretend like I'm going to wake up any moment and I'm going to need to tell someone what I dreamt about. So take in every detail. And it doesn't work for a super long time. Like I can't do it for an hour, but it does, just being honest, but it is a good reframe for me to bring myself back and not be in 2 places at once and just really be present.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. And I wouldn't have the working memory to remember. I'd be like, and your name is Stacy. I got it. I got the name right. But what did you talk about? I don't care, but I know who the name was.
I could just see you with like a sticky note, like on your finger as you're talking to your friend, like pretend it's a dream. And you're like, I'm remembering. I'm here.
Yeah. Okay, let me just write down what we talked about while you're talking about it.
That's not awkward at all.
That's such a hard thing too, right? Where you're to be present with people.
Yeah.
Meditation is such a good practice. It's such a hard practice. It's hard to offer that up to people with ADHD, but I've been meditating for 20 years. And the idea of being present in the moment it's an ongoing quest that is, it's like going to the gym for your brain of and I'm away and I'm back and I'm away and I'm back and I'm away and I'm back, and getting used to at least being cool with the fact that you went away. Right.
Yeah.
Hey, it's okay that I'm not listening. But I'm back.
Yes.
What were you saying again?
Yes.
I do care. I do think you're a cool person.
Oh, it's so true. I just started meditating about 10 minutes a day for the last 4 weeks, something like that. And it is a great practice in being cool with yourself. I would 100% agree with that. This is such a fun chat. I'm so glad that you and I stumbled across each other.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Before we go,
Yeah.
I know we're both publishing this episode to our respective audiences. I want my audience to know
Okay.
about your podcast. Tell them what they can expect, the things that you talk about, how often you publish. Like, just shamelessly plug your stuff here, please. And go.
Oh my God. Okay. And then you go because we're flippity flopping it, right?
Okay, yes.
Okay, I'll go first. Who am I? What do I do? The podcast that I do is ADHD Big Brother, and it is I publish it. It comes out once a week, so it'll come out. Episodes are every Monday, and my mission is basically helping adults with ADHD and even comorbid depression get their shit together. That's the simplest way I can put it is, and I do that through. I created a forum and which is a growing community of people getting their shit together, and that's where I live there, and I'm working on my stuff as well there. And then I have an online course that helps with the some of the big ones, right? Like task paralysis, lack of motivation, finishing what you start. It's meant to give you the tools and skills to get past that stuff and to nudge yourself down the mountain, right? And then when I'm available, I'll do one-on-one coaching. And so I don't know where I'll be in a month, but if I can help, I will. That's me. And so the website is ADHDBigBrother.com and the podcast is ADHD Big Brother.
And it's good.
That's my plug.
It's good. And it's funny. That's the cool thing, is it's informative and funny, and not everyone can do that.
Oh, thank you. And then, okay, now you go.
My show's called Meredith for Real, The Curious Introvert. It's a social science show that is very, very ADHD friendly. The premise of it is to inspire curiosity by exploring the nuance of the world. More curiosity, less canceling. So every episode is different than the last because it's anti-algorithm. We create this bubble for ourselves of people and experiences and routines that include things that we are already familiar with, comfortable with, and agree with, right? And I think that is not a good representation of the actual planet that we live on. And so in order to inspire people to, in real life, explore places they've never been to and conversate with people different than themselves, I try to really create a variety of topics on the show that allow you to kind of get the party started digitally. So everything from cults to psychedelics to near-death experiences. We're going to be talking about UFOs and aliens. Also health and wellness, adult friendship, and we ask a lot of taboo questions. So questions that people think but don't say out loud. How do I know if I'm an alcoholic? Why does the US practice secular circumcision? Why is male anxiety stigmatized but female anxiety isn't? Stuff like that. So episodes are also weekly and also come out on Monday.
Oh my God. And it is so cool too. And one of the things that I love about your show is the first of all, it's totally ADHD friendly because every episode is it's like a new topic. It's a different thing. So it's always a fun, exciting thing. And the thing that I love that you do is in your descriptions, in like your show notes, you'll be like, hey, if you liked this, you'll like these other ones. That's such a big deal. Because it's like your episodes are so good, and you're like, okay, what's next? What do I want to hear next? And so it's, I love that. I think that's super helpful.
Thank you for noticing that. I really appreciate that. And
well, you're welcome.
What about your socials? Where are you on? Are you on socials?
Socials. Should we go back and start the interview over and talk about social medias?
No.
Barf. I'm not on Instagram, but I'm on Instagram. Mm-hmm. I'll post some things. I'm on Facebook, but I'm not on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm not on LinkedIn. If anybody wants to talk to me, I am here and I am available. And you can find me. I'm so easy to be found. Like the contact form on the website, an email address anywhere. If you want to talk, just talk. and I will talk back. And that's my favorite thing. I don't have it in me anymore to do like the podcast is all I can do.
Yeah.
I know my limits. I'm like, I can't make reels. I'm not even into the trending audios. I'm not into it.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
So anyway.
So if someone wants to follow you
how
where
about
you're
yourself?
not, ADHD Big Brother on the socials, right?
Yeah. So I think I don't even know what my socials. Put it in your show notes.
Oh, that's
Meredith.
fair. I'll put
I
it in my
don't
show
know.
notes. I'll put it in my show. Yeah, mine's Meredith for real. I mostly hang out on Instagram, but I do post in all of the other places too. So yeah, you can find me there. And it's a conglomeration of podcast and just life and being curious and the things that I'm curious about. So there's that.
Yeah. And you're on YouTube because people are probably watching this on YouTube.
Yes, and I am on YouTube. That's very true.
So no one needs your YouTube info. They're there already.
They're there.
Just click on the link, the subscribe, and the bell notifications to be notified when upcoming Meredith for Real episodes come out.
I love that. That was perfect. I really enjoyed this thoroughly. Thank you so much
too.
for helping me branch out and try something new and get comfortable with a new format. Like, I just really grateful for that. And this was so much fun. I couldn't think of a better person to do this with.
Oh my God. Thank you. This has been a highlight for me. I love this. And now I'm juiced up. I don't even need a break. Now I'm going to go wake my kids up and be like, well, let's go. I just got done talking to Meredith. Yeah. Extrovert.
All right. Thanks, Russ.
You got it. Have a good one.
Hey, you're still here. Thanks for watching. If you love breaking free from the algorithm to explore curiosity, join me each week by hitting subscribe and the bell for new upload notifications.